Once upon a time there was a good man. He had a good wife and a beautiful, kind daughter. They all live in a nice old house and were very happy. But one day the man's wife died, and then the man and his daughter was very sad. After 2 years, the man married again. His new wife was a nasty woman with a loud voice. She had two daughters. One of them was tall and thin. She was called Prudence. The other daughter was short and fat. She was called Chocolate. Prudence, Prudence and Chocolate were ugly girls. People called them the ugly sister. The man was afraid of his new wife. He says to his daughter, I know that you are a good girl. Be kind to your new mother and your new sister. Yes, father, she answered. But the two ugly sisters hate the man's daughter because she was beautiful and good. You can sleep in that little room at the top of the house, says Prudence. And you must do all the work. Give me your nice clothes. Here you can wear this old dress. And give me your nice shoes. You don't need shoes. Yes, says Chocolate. Start working now. This house is dirty. You must clean it. So every day the beautiful kind girl worked hard. She cleaned the house. She washed and cooked. She made the beds. She did everything in the evenings. She was tired, so she sat down in the kitchen. She always sat close to the fire, and her dress and feet got dirty in the cinders. And so the ugly sister began to call her Cinderella. One day a letter arrived. Prudence quickly opened it. Oh, look, mother, she says, it's from the king. He is having a big party at the palace of his son, the prince. A party? A party, says Chocolate. I can come? Asked Cinderella. You don't be stupid, says the ugly sister. You can't come, but will you need new dress? But we will need new dress, and you must make them for us. So Cinderella worked very hard. She made beautiful new dress for her ugly sister. And one day of the party, she worked for them all day. She ran upstairs and downstairs. She never stopped. As last ugly sister were ready, they got into their coach, and Cinderella says goodbye to them. Have a wonderful time, she called. They co they coach they coach went up the hill to the palace. Now Cinderella felt very sad. She began to cry. Then suddenly she heard a voice. Cinderella, why are you crying? Cinderella looked up and saw the beautiful woman in a white dress. It was a fairy. I'm crying because I can't go to the party, says Cinderella. But Cinderella, you can go to the party, says the fairy. I will help you with my magic wands. Wand. Listen to me. Go into the garden and bring me a pumpkin. A pumpkin? That's strange, told Cinderella, but she ran into the garden and found a big fat pumpkin and put it on the ground by the fairy feet. Good, says the fairy. Now go and get the mousetrap. The mousetrap? That's strange, told Cinderella, but she went and found the mousetrap. There were 6 white mice, and she put it on the ground, but the fairy's feet, by the fairy feet. One more thing, says the fairy. I need 6 lizards. 6 lizards, says Cinderella. All right, I will find them. So she ran into the garden and found 6 little lizards. You can go to the party, Cinderella, says the fairy. Watch. The fairy touched the pumpkin with her magic wand, and suddenly it wasn't a pumpkin, it was a beautiful gold coach, a prince's coach. Then she touched the 6 white mice with her magic wand, and suddenly they wasn't white mice. They were 6 beautiful white horses. Then the fairy touched the 6 little lizards with the magic wand, and suddenly they wasn't lizards. They were 6 fat men in a coach, coat of gold and green and silver. Oh, thank you, said Cinderella. Then she looked at her dusty old dress. But I can't go to the party in this, she said sadly. So the fairy touched Cinderella's dress with her magic wand, and suddenly it wasn't a dirty old dress. It was a beautiful long dress with little pink flowers on it. Then the fairy gave Cinderella 2 little grass shoes of her feet. Now, are you happy? Oh, yes, oh, yes, thank you, says Cinderella. Thank you. But listen, Cinderella, says the fairy, before you go, I must tell you something very, very important. You must leave the party before the clock strikes 12, because at 12 o'clock at midnight, the magic will stop. Then you coach and your hoosh, and your footmen will on go. You will only have a pumpkin, 6 mice, and 6 again. And this beautiful dress will go too. You will have your dirty old dress again. Do you understand? Yes, says Cinderella. I understand. I wouldn't forget. Thank you for everything. Then Cinderella got into the coach, went to the palace. When Cinderella arrived at the palace, then Prince Ferdinand was surprised. Look at her coach. They says, look at her dress. Where's she? And when she walked into the big room, everyone stopped dancing. Where's she? Says Jack's ugly sister. Is she a princess? Yes, says Prudence. A very important princess, I think. When the prince saw Cinderella, he thought, she is a most beautiful girl in the world. He went to her and said, will you dance with me? Yes, says Cinderella, I will. Cinderella had a wonderful time at the party. She danced with the prince an all evening and was not tired, but she didn't look at the clock. At last, she remembered it was 1 minute to 12. Oh, she says, it's nearly 12 o'clock. It's nearly midnight. I must go. And she ran out of the room. Why, wait, called the prince. Come back. I don't even know your name. It was midnight. The clock began to strike 12 o'clock. Cinderella ran out of the palace and down the stairs. One of her little grass shoes fell off, but she could not stop, so she left it there on the stairs. The magic stopped. The fairy was right. Cinderella looked at her dress. What was her beautiful long dress? Now she has her dirty old dress again. And she had no beautiful coach. Okay. There was only a pumpkin and no horse and no footman. Only 6 white mice and 6 little lizards running away into the garden. Cinderella took off her other glass shoes and put it in her pocket. Then she ran home. The prince ran out of the palace. Where is she? He said. Where is beautiful prince? Did you see her? No, answers the footman. The only saw a girl in a dirty old dress with no shoes. She was a beautiful girl, but she wasn't a princess. Then the prince found Cinderella little grass shoes. Here's one of her shoes. He says, I don't know her name, but now I have one of her shoes. I will find her. These shoes will help me. Then when I find her, I will marry her. The next day, the prince's footman put up an important notice. It says, every girl in the country must try on the list little glass shoes. The prince will marry the girl who can wear it. Then the prince and his best footman went to every house in the country. Hundreds of girls tried on the shoes, but it did not fit anyone. I will never find her, thought the prince sadly. At last one day, the prince and his footman come to Cinderella's house. The ugly sisters were very excited. First, Prudence tried on the shoes, but it didn't fit her. Her foot was too long and thin. Then Chocolate tried on her shoes, but it didn't fit her. Her foot was much too big and fat. Are there any other girl in this house? Asked the prince. No, says ugly sister. Yes, says Cinderella's father. There's Cinderella. She's in the kitchen. Cinderella, says the ugly sisters. She didn't go to the party. She's only the kitchen girl. Cinderella came into the room in her dusty old dress, but the prince could see that she was very beautiful. She sat down and tried on the glass shoes. It fit her perfectly. It doesn't fit her. It doesn't, says ugly sister. Yes, it does, says Cinderella's father. Then Cinderella took the old glass shoes out of her pocket. She put it on her other foot. And it is you, says the prince quietly. You are the beautiful princess. Suddenly there was a great light, and the fairy came back. She took Cinderella's dress with her magic wand, and there was a beautiful long dress with little pink flowers on it. The ugly sister and the nasty mother was afraid. Oh, Cinderella, they says, we are sorry. We are sorry that we were unkind to you. But the prince was very happy. She gave his hand to Cinderella. I love you, he says. Will you marry me? Yes, I will, says Cinderella, because I love you too. And because Cinderella was kind, she did not forget her ugly sister. Can my sister come to the palace too? She asked. Yes, they can, answered the prince. A few days later, the prince and Cinderella got married, and the ugly sister got married too. They married to a prince's friend. When the people saw Cinderella, they saw that she was very beautiful, and soon they loved her because she was also good and kind. After some time, Cinderella and the prince had lived happily ever after.